Should you boycott Target? The answer to this question is one that a lot of people are debating right now. The comment section of one of my most recent Instagram reels is currently exploding, so I thought it would be best for us to dive deeper into this topic. And joining me for this discussion is CEO, founder, and business coach Ashley Sutton. Target recently rolled back their DEI efforts. And in them rolling back these DEI efforts or their DEI program, it has caused a outcry in the Black community specifically about how we should show up or how we should not show up at Target. There's been this movement to boycott Target and to stop shopping there completely. And there's also people sharing online like, well, we should still support the Black businesses because if we don't support them, how will their businesses thrive? And will they continue to be successful? And so I just like to start this conversation from the business owner perspective.
And I think this is also a part of the discussion too, because programs like this are either being slightly defunded or just cut completely. So Target Accelerators is a program that's meant to help founders understand the inner workings of getting into mass retail. In that Target Accelerators umbrella, you had something called Forward Founders, and you had something that was called Takeoff. And
Okay.
Forward Founders were for new-ish founders. And by new, like you didn't just start your business. It's like you either grew your business substantially over e-com, your website, or you've got
Right.
some retail placement, but maybe you don't have mass retail placement. And then
Gotcha.
Takeoff is for founders who have likely scaled a little bit. Maybe they have one big retail partner under their belt, but they really kind of want to take off to the next level and scale that business to something like a Target.
Gotcha.
So those were kind of like the two tracks.
How long ago was that?
So I got accepted in 2023. So it
Okay.
was from, the fall of 2023. That was the program. And they have different cohorts. So at the time, they used to have like a fall cohort and a spring cohort. And I was in the fall cohort.
Well, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you from you having been in Target's accelerator program,
Yeah.
which I think brings a lot of like insight that most people won't have into what it is like to get products or to the process of getting products into a major retailer like Target. So could we just start there? What does it take to get your products on the shelf at Target?
A lot of people ask that question, and I think, it's beyond Target. It's what does it take to get your product on shelf? And then
Mm,
there's the question of what does it take to get your product on shelf at a mass retailer like
mm-hmm,
Target, like Walmart. Um,
mm-hmm,
so a lot goes into making connections, meeting people, right? Like it's
mm-hmm,
one thing to be super successful on your e-commerce, right?
mm-hmm.
But we all know how many people have online businesses. We're all fighting for the same digital space, right? Of online
Right.
shops. I could be a t-shirt business. You could be selling t-shirts. Our cousin down the street could be selling t-shirts. And
Right.
we're all selling three different types of t-shirts, but yet we might have one alike consumer, right? Like they might
Mm-hmm.
shop from you one week, next month they're shopping from me, and then, next week our cuz. And
Right.
the difference between online shopping and online customers is it's a nice size segment of customers, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, even though we are in a very digital age and online shopping is booming and mobile shopping is, I mean, out of this world, right? There is
Right.
still so much to be said about foot traffic to brick and
Mm-hmm.
mortar stores, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of energy to be able to get into those stores. And when I say energy, I mean the physical, mental energy, but also financial energy to get into those stores. And so when you think about your e-com and you think about wholesale, you are looking in the very beginning at some of the similar things, right? You build a
Mm-hmm.
product, you have a product line, you're
Mm-hmm.
pricing it, you're trying to check your margins, blah, blah, blah. Where these things start to veer off is there's so many more costs associated with getting into a brick and mortar retail store, let alone a brick and mortar mass retail store like a Target.
Right.
So to start, you've got to talk to buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably wondering, well, how do I meet a buyer? Oh, so you got to back up, right? Like, it's not
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, I'm going to go Google an email and then, like, that's going to be my shot. Now, some people's stories have worked out like that. That has
Mm-hmm.
happened. I recall Sarah Blakely. Do you know her? She's the founder of Spanx.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she, back in the day, like, literally just, I think she called Neiman Marcus or like ran up there and was like, I have this thing and I want you to see it. And, she was making stuff out of her home. And
Right.
back in the day, you could get gritty and grimy with that because there wasn't as many roadblocks, right? There weren't as many gatekeepers. There weren't this like, oh, if someone sends me an email, I'm just going to like pretend I didn't see it or it's going to spam, right? It was
Right.
really hard to say no to someone if they were in your face, right?
Right.
But in this day and age where it's hard to find a good contact for a good buyer and the right buyer, right? So let's say
Right.
you like weasel through all the LinkedIns and you've gone through the Google search and you use all these online sleuthing databases to find an email. Now you've got to
Mm-hmm.
get through the firewall that is the tons of emails that maybe 5, 10, 1,500 other people have emailed
Or
this
also
person.
sending. Right.
Exactly. So where I personally like to start, I'm very community connection driven. I try not
Mm-hmm.
to start off with a cold email. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the best way to kind of start off getting into these conversations with buyers is by meeting them in
Mm-hmm.
person. And sometimes, yes, that is going to take an investment in exhibiting at a trade show, like an
Yeah.
industry trade show. So, for example, if you sell bundles, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you should be at the hair show, right? You should be at
Right.
any show where they are selling hair products, hair adjacent things, right? So
Right.
accessories, tools, things like that. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get that email buyer list if the show provides it. You send off some pre-show emails. You send off some emails during the show. You send up some follow-ups, right? That's how you
Mm-hmm.
start to build these connections with these buyers. And then they'll start to remember
Yeah.
you. Then you'll see that email. And then if you're lucky enough, you get to what they call a line review. And
Mm.
that's
Okay.
where they are working with their merchandise and planning team, and they are trying to say, "Oh, is this going to be a good fit for us? These are the trends
Mm-hmm.
that we're looking at. This is the price point that we're looking for. This is, the type of product that we think we need. It's missing from our portfolio." And if you check
Mm-hmm.
all those boxes, whoo, then now you get to move forward, and they're talking to you about a PO, which stands for purchase order for anyone who may
Mm-hmm.
not know what a PO is. And then from there, you get to show. The steps in between that, it's like, it's a million. You've got to make sure
Right.
you are working with your manufacturer. By the way, if you're working with specific retailers, mass retailers, they require that they are that retailer's approved factory. So you have to work
Mm.
with a Target approved factory, a Walmart approved factory, et cetera, et cetera. They have to have
Mm-hmm.
certain compliance things. So you have to have done all of your homework and your due diligence before you say yes to the dress and accept that PO. Because let's just
Right.
say you ordered 50,000 units
Mm-hmm.
and you ordered it from a warehouse, and then Target's like, oh, well, this is not an approved factory. Well, now you've spent $100,000. That's a low price for 50,000 units, but $100,000
Mm-hmm.
on inventory that you now can't sell because you
Right.
weren't prepared. So there's so many steps in between, like getting from shelf after you get the PO. You got to get the manufacturer, make sure they're compliant, get your legal stuff in order, your packaging in order, making sure that, your the timeline and from getting from the product development to shipping it, especially if you're doing overseas. Sometimes people are, and I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of times it's us Americans. Like, we're like, oh yeah, it'll ship to you in 2 weeks. It's like, no, if you are shipping anything overseas, it's going to be maybe 60, 90 days before you get your
Mm.
product stateside. And that's if you do what we
Mhm.
call FOB, which stands for basically it's like fresh off the boat, basically.
Mhm.
And or if you have the money, listen, I'm not knocking if you got the money, you can do air freight. And then that may get to you
Mhm.
in, a super quick time, maybe 15 to 30 days. Right?
Mhm.
So there's there's time to think about before you get on shelf. There's money to think about before you get on shelf. There's compliance. There's just a lot. Just, yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So what I'm hearing you say is that this is no small feat. This is,
No.
and also it's very costly.
Yes,
It's
yes.
this doesn't sound inexpensive.
No,
So
no, it's not.
yeah. So for the business owners that are in Target, specifically talking about like Black brands and businesses
Okay.
that are a part of the Black History Month feature or just there just because they have done this work to be in a
Hmm.
major retailer,
Hmm.
what kind of impact would you see a boycott from people shopping from Target be? Like, what kind of impact do you think that these business owners would face?
I think it depends on where the brand and the founder is at that moment in
Mm-hmm.
time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate to use comparisons because it's always like you're going to use the people that you know. And yes, I'm going to use a Tabitha Brown, and then I am
Mm-hmm.
going to use like let's just say I don't know my homegirl Jane who just got in for the February launch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So both of these women are founders and both of them have
Mm-hmm.
placement at Target. Tabitha is what we call a lifestyle brand. She is
Mm-hmm.
not like, I have a beauty line and that is it. She's got a beauty
Mm-hmm.
line, she's got cookware, she's got food. She is almost
Popcorn.
I mean, everything, right? Like in almost every corner of Target, you gonna see
Mm-hmm.
Tab's name, right?
Right.
And then you've got Jane, who is like, oh my God, Ashley, guess what? We're launching it in Target. We got 6 SKUs approved. SKUs is like it's a, it's basically the product. So like when you go pick up
Mm-hmm.
something off the shelf, that's a SKU in the
Mm-hmm.
CPG world. So she's like, I've got 6 SKUs and I am a lipstick company, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's her space.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. She's not in all these different lanes or whatever. And you may be
Right.
thinking to yourself, oh, well, then if that's the case, like Tab will be okay. And we just like need
Mm-hmm.
to make sure we pour into Jane because she's only got 6 SKUs. But at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, like they both are being impacted. And let me tell you
Right.
why. When you finally, so we talked about all the steps, right, that lead up
Mm-hmm.
into getting, and by the way, that was such a truncated version of how to get on shelf. Like that was like light version.
Right.
So all the steps to get a buyer's attention, to then get a line
Mm-hmm.
review, to then get on an PO, and then to get on shelf, right? So now we're
Mm-hmm.
on shelf. And we have to pay for the space that you
Mm-hmm.
have that like you walk down on the shelf. That's not free, right? Like, and
Right.
when I say pay for it, it's not like it's like, oh, $1,000 for whatever, but it's like real estate. You pay per pocket. So for
Right.
example, in my industry for greeting cards, let's just say per pocket, I had to come out of pocket like, I don't know, 30 to 50 cents. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm only making $1 and I got to pay 50 cents for
Right.
one pocket and I got 6 pockets to fill,
Right.
what? That's a lot of money. So you have to
Right.
pay for the space that you're in. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
pay to get it shipped to their distribution center so they can then go and disperse. You got to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're paying for, those like, those papers that you used to get on Sundays with your parents or whatever, and it was like the
Mm-hmm.
Target news. They call that a
Yeah.
circular, and people are always like, "Oh my God, this looks cool, and I want that." And I can see every kid for Christmas like, "Mommy, I want this. Daddy, I want this." But
Mm-hmm.
people pay for that. Like as much as it's like the hot toy this week, it's not the hot toy this week. It is whoever paid to get that hot toy. Now, let's be clear. They do use numbers and data to determine what is selling, right? So they're not just going to say something's hot just because somebody paid, right? Like they're going to look at the time it was called NPD data, but now they like merge their Circana. Anywho, basically it's industry data where every time an item gets sold, this system, this Wizard of Oz system, racks up how many times this thing has sold. And that's how these people are able to determine, oh, these are the top toys at Target right now. Or these are the top toys in America right now, right? Or the top games, the top dolls, the blah, blah, blah. So now that they've determined, oh, these are the top toys, this person on this Target sales team is going to be, or merchandising team is probably going to reach out to the brand team. So let's say they reach out to Jane's brand team and they're like, Jane, you are really selling lip bearing number 001. It is on fire. We think you should like put an ad in the circular and like do some promo. And you're thinking, okay, let's do it. They're not doing that for you for free. You got to pay for that. You got to pay for the circular. You got to pay for online ads. And oh, by the way, now that they've got this beautiful, shiny Target app, all those things that people ignore, you know, when you go on the Target app and you ignore the thing that's like in your face, people are paying for that. Like every single thing costs. And that's just like the promotion of it, right? So let's say Jane and Tab are on shelf and people are like, I'm not going to buy anymore. Okay, that is absolutely your right. Absolutely your choice. Here's how it's going to impact both of them. Now, dollar amount volume wise, it's clear that it's going to impact Tabitha more because she's got more real estate at every pocket in a Target store than it's going to affect Jane. But it's still going to affect them relative, because remember, we talked about where they are in their business journey. So if you're used to this, right, that's what you're used to, or you're used to this, then that's what you're used to, right? So so I just want to like level the playing ground. So you decide that you don't want to go and purchase from either of them, which again, your choice, your prerogative. But now, because you boycotted, the product is sitting on shelf. So what happens to spoiled milk when it's on shelf, like right before it's about to expire at the grocery store? They throw it out, right?
It's gotta go.
It's gotta go because it's spoiled. So now, because this inventory has been sitting beyond its expiration date, and even though this is not a food product, in the planning team's mind, every product has an expiration date. So now that this product has been sitting on shelf past its expiration date, they're going to send a nice little email to the brand teams, to Jane and to Tab's team, and they're going to say, all right, so it's time to either move this stuff to clearance or move it completely, you know, off the shelves and, shipped back to you. That sounds great, right? Sounds like a plan. Cool, no problem. Like that, it is what it is, except it's not. You, as the brand owner, have to pay for moving your products off of this planogram the aisle, the shelf that they put you on to the clearance rack. And your margins are severely affected by that. So sadly, they will still take a cut of the clearance price. They're not being nice and saying, you know what, since you didn't sell, like we're just going to move it to clearance and like whatever you make off of that is what you make. It's like, no. They're still going to get their cut once you're on shelf on the clearance rack. Right. And then let's just say you still have units that you haven't sold. Well, now they're going to ship that all back to your warehouse, back to you, wherever. And that they're going to do what they call a chargeback. And chargebacks are fees that just rack up if you have returns. So when people, look at a lip color online and they know that that's not their color and they buy it anyway, and then they go back to the store and return, chargeback. When they are getting rid of the inventory and it's moving off clearance, chargeback. Because like, oh, we didn't sell what you said we were going to sell, blah, blah, blah. So It affects entrepreneurs financially because they have to pay for every single thing that it surrounds them. And you've got to
Right.
remember, like, I think a lot of times people look at the brand owners, whether that is Melissa from the Lip Bar or
Mm-hmm.
Unique from what is that? Happy Hues or Tab. And it's like you look at them as these kind of influencers and big personalities, but you
Mm-hmm.
forget that they have teams of people. So you're not just hurting them, you're hurting their sales associate. You are hurting their interns. You are hurting
Right.
so many people down the chain in terms of the
Yeah.
business, right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking emotion. I'm not talking because we're all right. We are rightfully upset at so many of these companies for rolling back
Right.
these DEI policies, right? Or
Right.
initiatives, I should say. But at the end of the day, the fact is, if we as people are saying that we want to build legacy, we want to
Mm-hmm.
build wealth, the way to do that is not by shooting ourselves in the foot. And
Right.
that is my emotional response to that. Everything else is
Right.
just facts. They are going to have to
Right.
pay for it. It's coming out of their pocket. You do with that information what you will.
That was such a detailed and just great explanation of like how all of this works, because I'm quite certain that a lot of people, especially if you don't do it for yourself, right? You just don't have this knowledge that this is how it all actually plays
Yeah.
out. So, one comment that I got pretty often was, why don't the business owners just go in and take their stuff off the shelves? And in their relationship with Target. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the legal side of things and
Yeah.
how, if people are in contract, with this major retailer, it's not that simple to just go in and pull your stuff off the shelves.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, this is I love this conversation because, I am never in the mode of pointing fingers or judging or telling people how to think. I only want
Right.
people to think um, in an educated way. I only want people to
Right.
have the information and to be informed to make a decision. I'm not here to think for you and to talk for
Yes.
you. Um,
Exactly.
but it is not as simple as just saying I'm not going to sell at Target anymore. Don't go and I'm just going to pull everything. Number
Right.
one, you alluded to it earlier, but the contract, right?
Right.
Legally, you are bound by a contract to fulfill orders, to fulfill a thing, let alone if
Mm-hmm.
you sign an agreement with their marketing team. So they do sometimes do co-marketing. It's very
Mm-hmm.
rare these days where they'll share the marketing with you. I don't even know what stores do that anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they'll split the marketing with you. And let's say, they've put in some of their money and you put in some of your money. Well, now you're under agreement again on the marketing side. So
Yeah.
you are bound contractually,
Mm-hmm.
legally. And if they decide to go after you, that's some hefty legal fees. Just the representation alone, let alone
Right.
the discovery, the research, all the things that's going to be needed to really take this case forward. And by the way, you still have to remember they are a mass retailer with
Right.
corporate team the size of the state of Texas. Like,
Literally.
so even if you were Tab, good luck. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the
Right.
only way you would be able to get out of that contract is if you had in an addendum, your legal team had said something like, our brand, is working with you alongside you as a partner because of these DE&I initiatives. And as long as they
Mm-hmm.
remain, then we will remain good partners. Like, okay. And that's very, like, who would even put that in a contract, right? But let's say
Right.
it was, right? Then,
Mm-hmm.
and only then, could you likely get out of your contract because it's
Right.
actually in black and white. And you know what our moms and dads used to tell us back in the day? Like, a verbal agreement is worth the paper that it's written on, right? Like, Everything needs to
Yep.
be in black and white. If it's not in
Right.
black and white, it didn't happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
so,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's the legal side of it.
Mhm.
And then the financial implications of that is, let's just say I have started a new um, home care, you know, cleaning system, right? It's like
Mhm.
3-step systems. You get a dishwasher, you get a rag, you get some sort of like
Mhm.
special solution. It's natural, it's organic, it's biodegradable packaging, all of these great things, right? All the buzzwords. Right.
Mhm.
Because remember, when my buyer was coming to look at all my products, they were looking for natural and sustainable and biodegradable packaging and all the things. So now I'm on shelf
Right.
and now I'm like, you know what? Screw this Target. You like, I'm not going to sell my products here. Cool.
Mhm.
They're going to say, well, how much are you going to pay us to fill this 1 foot space that we gave you? How much you gonna pay us back? Because we agreed to this thing. This is the
Yep.
dollar volume that you said we were gonna make, and now we've got a, let's say we've got a $250,000 hole for the
Right.
remainder of your contract left.
Mhm.
So either they're gonna come for you for that 250, but then also the inventory that you pull off the shelf, now
Mhm.
they've got to ship it back to you. Let's
Mm.
say you worked with an overseas manufacturer to ship that to you. Unless you've got warehouse space
Where you gonna put
overseas,
it?
where where are you going to put that, right? And
Right.
so let's say you hurry up and let's say you solve that problem. You're like, okay, I know I got to find a warehouse now. So now you go, you find some warehouse space. I'm in Houston. Let's say I go find a warehouse space in Houston. And
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, you can store your stuff here. Great, no problem. I'm in Houston, Texas. It is hot most of the time.
Right.
Because I was rushing and I needed to do the thing, I just like found the closest storage warehouse space near me. We also have hurricanes. They put me on the
Mhm.
first floor. So now I've shipped all my stuff back. It's in the warehouse. It's 100 degrees outside. And then we're
Right.
about to have a hurricane in a week. And oh, by the way, my product packaging is biodegradable and the shelf life is 6 months, but it's already been sitting on shelf 3 months. And when it came to me, we were at 4 months. So now it's only 2 months left. So now I've bought warehouse
Mm.
space for a whole year. Maybe they gave me a promo to do it a year. I had to ship
Right.
the product back. And now all the product is now gonna, is what we call spoilage. It's gonna go away because the product, the packaging is biodegradable and it only lasts 6 months or whatever. So now
Right.
this is a very extreme example, but my point is like now you've got all this wasted inventory
Right.
and you've shipped it, you've spent all this money to do that. Where is the money coming from? Where are
Right.
you storing it? Who's going to wash it for you? Where is it going to go? Are you going to sell it on your e-com? I've heard that as a solution. And I just,
Right.
informing, not telling, but informing
Mhm.
that e-commerce cannot likely do the same numbers as a mass retail store that has supply chain on lock, distribution on lock, buyers that know what the trends are and looking like marketing game on lock. Even if you go into Target and you didn't see an ad for Melissa Butler's The Lip Bar, you're probably going to go
Mhm.
down the aisle because you're already
Right.
in Target. So you've
Literally.
got what we call in this, buying space, incremental purchase. So I came in for
Mhm.
eggs, but because it's Black History Month and I see all these signs, I need a lippy. Maybe I go to that
Right.
aisle. So now I've made this incremental purchase that I really wasn't planning on buying. Like
Right.
that's what retail does for these brands. It gives you mad exposure and an
Right.
opportunity to connect with and get your product out there with people that live, anywhere. Iowa, right? And I know everybody picks
Right.
on Iowa, like Iowa's like, "Ah, that's great, okay." But like, you know what I mean? Like, but it's not
Right.
like, everybody's always talking about New York and LA and Houston, blah blah blah. But it gives you that opportunity. And so I think
Right.
the fact, the data is you cannot likely, especially if you're a new-ish founder, do the same
Mm-hmm.
numbers on your ecom without pouring very heavily into advertising. You can do that, absolutely. Like you're going to be paying Zuck for those meta ads on Instagram and Facebook and
Yep.
Google, whatever, right? Like you're going to be
Yep.
paying some money for some advertising. And I want us to be educated about how we talk about making shifts and how we talk about recouping funds and recouping money, because it is not
Yeah.
the same. It's just not.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really glad that you brought that up because that was definitely a solution that has been thrown out a lot. Let's just buy directly from the business owner, directly from the
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah.
And I think that
And
it
I do
can be
want to
a,
say, let me say this, and
yeah,
I'm so sorry to cut
yeah,
you
yeah.
off. I do want to say,
No,
we
no, go
make
for it.
so much more money when you buy direct from us. Like,
Yes,
we
yes,
make so much more money. But the
yes.
problem, we're not solving for the money right now. We are solving
Right.
for scale. And I want people to separate that, because I know sometimes people are like, well, if you just said you make more money, then why shouldn't we buy direct? It's like, it's not that. Let's just take an example. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got a website and
Mm-hmm.
I sell handbags and they're $100, right? My
Mm-hmm.
product cost is $20 to make said handbag. And maybe my like shipping materials, all the other costs, like, blah, blah, $10. So now we are at $30 for the cost of goods.
Mm-hmm.
And now my profit is $70.
Mm-hmm.
$70 I'm making off my website. And I
Mm-hmm.
get on average like I don't know, like 10 customers a week. So what is that? $700 a week. 7 times 4 is 28. So $2,800 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So now I go to Target, but I got to pay for the shipping. They have to make their margin. Now that I've got
Mm-hmm.
my product cost in there, now my profit is down to only $30. Or now my profit is down to only $40 or $30. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say $30. So now
Mm-hmm.
I've made $30 versus $70. But
Okay.
Target has 1,800 doors. They've promised me all 1,800 doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say I sold like one thing a week at every store or whatever. Like that's still more money than what I'm making in 1 month on my ecom. And I just
Yep.
sold one purse at $30 there at all 1,800 doors. So
Yeah.
when we're making these arguments, just know what you're arguing for. If you want to argue
Yes.
about scale and reach, that's what we're talking about there. If you want to talk about what we are taking home, the take home pay, the spinach after it's cooked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like ecom for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that makes a lot of sense. I think that a lot of these topics, as people are discussing them online, a lot of things are getting conflated and things are much more layered and nuanced than
Yeah.
maybe we all realize. And it
Yeah.
is very, the timing of all of this is also really frustrating because we
Yeah.
are a week away or just a few days away now
Yeah,
from Black History Month.
they tried it
And
dot com on that.
it's like y'all would say this now. Like it just is really quite unfortunate because I'm like, this is coming up so soon, and
Hmm.
there's so many, business owners that are going to be on display. Some of them for
Yeah.
the very first time, and
Yeah.
so for this kind of thing to roll out in this way and to be causing the, kind of like this huge splash that it has right now in the news is
Yeah.
going to definitely impact business owners. So
Yeah.
I just really appreciate you like taking the time to kind of explain just, some of the nuance that exists in this conversation
Of
because
course.
while listen, I'll be the first one to boycott. You hear me? I'll be the first one. I want to be on the front
Listen,
lines.
my mom and dad used to call me Angela Davis when I was younger. I am militant as okay. Listen,
Same, same.
listen,
And when I
but
have my fro out, listen, I really
listen,
be looking like Angela.
listen. But what my mom and dad also instilled is to have a very intentional and strategic way to play the game of business. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, this is not about shucking and jiving and playing the banjo for the massa. This is not
Right.
that.
Right.
You want to play with, this leveled playing field, which by the way, I don't. It's a myth. I don't actually think there's ever going to be a level playing field. But for us to
Right.
be able to create the spaces that we want to be able to create for ourselves, it's going to take the power of our collective dollar.
Yeah.
And that is what we as a community, as a culture, need to understand is the power
Yeah.
of our collective dollar. The amount of money, and people can go and research these reports that the Black community has in terms of spending is, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, in the trillion, like with a T,
Mm.
trillion, not million, billion, trillion.
Trillion.
Imagine what we could do if like we flipped that on its head and started saving and investing in one another,
Right.
saving and investing in our businesses and really growing. And I
Right.
love that idea. I've seen so many arguments around, and I'm not here for the like let's all be nice, let's be calm, let's be like no
Right.
need to be nasty, and I'm
Right.
I'm leaning from a space of education. I'm not leaning towards the yeah, y'all have that. Um
Right.
but I think that, some of the things that I've heard are like, we've got to create our own. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the idea of some Black woman, man, jointly, whatever, coming together to
Yes.
create a mass retail store, or maybe not even a mass retail store, but just a specialty store that's nationwide and then ultimately
Right.
mass, right? But we've
Yeah.
got to start somewhere. And I want us
Right.
all to think about our neighborhoods and look around and ask ourselves how many Black owned grocery stores or specialty stores do we have that it's more than one location,
Right.
more than two locations, more than three locations? And it's not because we can't do it, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of discourse in our culture. And if we could really understand how much power we have, my God,
Yes.
because
Unstoppable.
they know what our power is. And that's why they
Mm-hmm.
continue to try to suppress it. And it's
Right.
funny that a lot of us don't recognize that they are trying to suppress this greatness because they
Yeah.
see what we clearly are not seeing as a collective. I'm not saying everyone, and I don't want to stereotype. I
Right.
certainly believe in the collective dollar for sure, but um,
Same.
we got to get free. That's all I got. I'm gonna keep saying that on repeat. We got to get free.
That. Correct. Listen, that is a perfect way to wrap this up. I fully support that message. We do have to get free, very much
Yeah.
that. But before we go, Ashley, I would love for you to just talk a little bit about yourself, and if you could talk about your business and kind of let people know where they can find you online and beyond.
Yes, thank you. First of all, Kaisha, thank you so much for having me. I vibed with you the moment we met at Sister Biz Gold Diggers Conference. You were just like, oh,
Yeah.
I just like wanted to put you in my pocket.
Well,
Um,
listen, I'll stay in your pocket because, honey, listen, you are a boss. You hear me? You are doing the thing. I'm like, I'm trying to be a boss like you, okay?
Listen, girl, I ain't sleep. I had put this makeup on, man. The boss don't sleep.
Listen.
But yes, you can find me at Hustle and Hope on Instagram. And that's for my stationery company. So we are the first two-in-one motivational greeting card company to include free digital guides with every single card. And what that looks like is, let's say you give a good sis a graduation card, they scan the back, they'll actually get a free guide on job search, interview tips, resume, and more. So we are not your Hallmark. We are not your American Greetings. We are really going beyond the paper over at Hustle and Hope. And then that's just hustleandhope.com. And then if you
Mhm.
are interested in being coached by me, I started coaching as of last year, taking on a handful of clients at the SuttonSuccessLeague.com. You can find us on Instagram at Sutton Success League. Now, don't be coming for me because y'all, I'd be talking about how people need to do their content. I have not done any content on that page. So I got like 5 followers. But I promise you, I know what I'm doing. I have over 14 years of CPG experience working at companies like Mattel,
Yes.
Fisher Price, Avon, working on brands like Peppa Pig, PJ Masks with Disney Jr., as well as Penguin Random House in publishing, and of course, running my own businesses. So I promise I'm your girl if you're looking for product-based coaching.
Listen, I love all of that. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank
listen,
you.
I love anytime I have the opportunity to talk with you, I'm going to do it because I feel like I just learn a little bit more and I'm just letting it
I know,
seep
and y'all
in,
know I
letting
be
it seep
talking.
in.
It's because I get so passionate about this stuff. Like I just want us all to just like let's win. I just need us to win.
Right. I want us to win. I'm rooting for everybody Black. I'm like, I
Listen,
want us all to get ours
yes,
because it is due. It is
yes.
due. As much as I want to personally convince people to support these Black businesses within Target, I know that decision isn't going to be right for everyone. But it was really important for me to have this conversation with Ashley and to share this information so that people can make informed decisions. What you do with this information is up to you, but I truly believe that knowledge is power. And now that we have this knowledge, what are we going to do with it? If you enjoyed this discussion and if you vibe with this kind of content, I encourage you to stick around and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss when I upload new videos. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye!